Let me tell you something that may sting a little. Most people spend their lives talking about what they're going to do. They announce their plans, they post their intentions, they broadcast their dreams, but when it's time to get up early, work late, and push through the grind, they vanish. Now listen carefully. The world doesn't respond to your words. It responds to your results. You don't get paid for your intentions. You get paid for your execution. The man who quietly builds, while others boast, that man becomes unstoppable, because he's not busy proving. He's too busy improving. So if you're tired of the noise, tired of the waiting, tired of the almosts, then it's time to shift gears. Speak less, do more, and let your success make the noise. Stick with me, because in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to make that shift. From talker to doer, from potential to power. Let's begin. Words are easy. Work is rare. Let me start with a simple truth. It's easy to talk, but it's work that builds your life. You see, talk is cheap. It doesn't cost you anything. You can tell people your goals, your plans, your dreams, and for a moment it might feel like progress. But don't be fooled. Words are a preview. Work is the show. Now, I don't say that to discourage you. I say it to wake you up. Because if you're going to build a meaningful life, a life of value, wealth, and personal pride, you've got to learn to separate the two. Talking and doing. Too many folks, they confuse conversation with creation. They think that if they say it loud enough, long enough, often enough, it'll somehow manifest. But here's the real magic. Action manifests. Sweat manifests. Repetition manifests. I remember when I was a young man full of ambition, but short on discipline. I'd tell people, I'm going to start a business. I'm going to read more. I'm going to get in shape. And you know what I got in return? A lot of pats on the back. A lot of that sounds great, but no results. Because I hadn't done the work. Words, my friend, will never replace grind. You don't get stronger by talking about the gym. You don't get wealthy by talking about investing. And you don't become wise by talking about reading books. You've got to do. You've got to show up. You've got to push through. Let me give you a law. The law of diminishing intention. The longer you wait to act on something you say, the more likely it is you never will. Say it Monday. Wait till Friday. You're already halfway down the road to never. So what do we do about it? Simple. We build a system of action. We discipline our speech, and we elevate our standards, not just for what we say, but for what we follow through on. If you say you'll do it, do it. If you write it in your planner, honor it. If you dream it, chase it with your feet, not your lips. You want to know the difference between the successful and the struggling. It's not intelligence. It's not talent. It's not even education. It's follow-through. It's the rare breed who does what they said they'd do. Quietly, consistently, persistently. Let me say it another way. Most people are interested. Very few are committed. Interested people talk about what they want. Committed people work for what they want. And here's the irony. When you do the work, day after day, without the applause, the results will speak for you. Success has a voice, friend. It speaks through your bank account. It speaks through your health. It speaks through your relationships, your schedule, your habits, and that voice, it doesn't lie. So don't aim to impress people with your plans. Aim to impress yourself with your execution. There's no need to broadcast your hustle. Just hustle. Let others watch you rise, and let your discipline do the talking. Because at the end of the day, anyone can talk about success, but the man who earns it, he doesn't need to say much at all. He just shows up. He just does the work, and the world notices. So here's your challenge for today. Cut your talking by half, double your doing, silence the noise, and amplify the motion. Because in a world full of voices, the one who acts becomes the one who leads. Remember, words are easy, work is rare. Be rare. Let's move on. Results speak louder than speeches. Let me give you a golden truth that shaped every success I've ever known. Results are the final word, not promises, not intentions, not long-winded speeches or clever social media posts. Results, tangible, measurable, undeniable. You see, there comes a point in life where words just don't carry the same weight. People stop listening to what you say and start watching what you deliver. Now, don't get me wrong. Communication is a powerful thing. A good speech can inspire. A good story can move mountains. But in the end, it's your performance that writes your legacy. Because results, they don't need PR. They don't need an explanation. They don't need a disclaimer. You don't have to convince people you're successful when your life already proves it. Think about a farmer. He doesn't stand in the field and shout, "I planted seeds. I'm working hard. I'm a great farmer." No, he just tends the soil. He waters the crops. He wakes up early. He puts in the time. And one day the harvest speaks for him. That's results. That's credibility. That's leadership without the lecture. Now here's the part most folks don't want to hear. Results are hard. They demand consistency. They require sacrifice. They ask for your full attention long before they give you a full reward. But they're worth it. Because once you produce something valuable, whether it's a business, a skill, a reputation, you don't need to explain it. You show it. And it commands respect without noise. Let me tell you what happens when you start focusing on results. First, your confidence grows. You don't need outside validation because you've got evidence. Second, your circle changes. People who talk a lot will fall away, and people who do a lot will find you. And third, perhaps most important, you begin to trust yourself. Not because of what you hope for, but because of what you've proven. So here's what I want you to remember. Every day is a scoreboard. Every decision is a seed. Every hour you invest in execution builds the life you say you want. You don't have to argue with the doubters. You don't have to explain yourself to the skeptics. You don't have to convince anyone that you're the real deal, because the real deal shows up, delivers, and lets the results talk. Now, I'm not saying you should never speak. I'm saying don't let the speech come before the scoreboard. Let your resume be written by your habits. Let your story be told by your effort. Let your value be measured by your contribution. And then when someone finally asks, "How'd you do it?" you won't need a speech. You'll just smile and say, "I did the work. So go do it." Plant the seed. Water the soil. Track the hours. Keep the promise. Because in the end, results don't whisper. They don't hint. They don't apologize. They roar. Let your life speak so loudly through what you build that no one ever has to wonder who you are. Let's continue. Quiet hustle builds loud success. Now here's something you won't hear from the crowd. You don't have to shout to be successful. You don't have to post every move. You don't have to announce your ambition. You just have to work. Quietly, relentlessly, without applause. We live in a world addicted to attention. Everybody wants to be seen. Everybody wants to be heard. But here's the question most folks never ask themselves. Would you still do the work if no one was watching? Would you still rise early, still stay late, still give it your all, without a single like, a single compliment, a single cheer? Because that's where the champions are made. You see, quiet hustle is the highest form of discipline. It's what separates the interested from the committed, the talkers from the builders, the flash from the fire. Anyone can look the part for a moment, but the man who hustles in silence, day after day, hour after hour, he becomes unstoppable. I've seen it again and again. The loud ones fade, the flashy ones fall off, but the quiet grinders, they rise, slow and steady, and suddenly they're everywhere. Not because they shouted, but because they showed up, because they stayed focused, because they put in the reps. When no one else was willing to. Let me tell you something valuable. Private discipline leads to public reward. Every book you read in silence, every early morning you train in solitude, every extra rep, every extra hour, every silent decision to keep going, it all compounds. And one day your results are so loud, they speak for you. You don't have to explain. You don't have to impress. You don't have to prove. Success has a way of making its own introduction. Now I want you to understand this. Quiet hustle isn't weak. It's not passive. It's not shy. It's focused. It's intentional. It's undistracted. And it's rare. Most people get caught in the loop of noise, talking about doing, posting about preparing, announcing before they even start. But when you choose quiet hustle, you trade dopamine for discipline. You trade attention for achievement. You stop chasing applause, and you start earning respect. Now hear me on this. You don't need to hide. You don't need to fear success. But you do need to earn it. And the best way to earn it. In the dark, in the quiet, in the grind. Success is built in the invisible hours. When the cameras are off. When the crowd is gone. When it's just you, your discipline, and your decision to keep going. So what do? You shut down the noise. You silence the doubt. You go to work. Because quiet hustle doesn't mean small dreams. It means serious dreams. It means you're done performing, and you're ready to produce. So build when it's boring. Push when it's painful. Grow when no one's clapping. And know this, the world will hear you soon enough. Not because you said something big, but because you built something real. Quiet hustle, loud success. Let's move forward. Don't broadcast, build. One of the biggest mistakes people make today is this. They broadcast what they haven't built. They talk about the dream before they've laid the foundation. They promote the project before they've picked up the hammer. They want applause before they've earned achievement. Let me give you some wisdom. You don't get strong by announcing the gym. You get strong by lifting the weights. In this world of noise and notification, it's easy to think that being seen is the same as being successful. But it's not. Visibility is not victory. Broadcasting is not building. Now, I'm not saying you should never share, but share the harvest, not the seed. Let the work be quiet. Let the results be loud. You see, there's something powerful about building in silence. There's a strength that grows when no one's watching. Because that kind of work isn't about applause. It's about purpose. It's not about followers. It's about foundations. Let me ask you something. What's stronger? The man who announces his intentions, or the man who builds without saying a word, and lets the world discover it on its own? You already know the answer. When you broadcast too early, you invite distractions. You invite doubt. You invite delay. And worst of all, you drain the fuel you need to actually finish. Because here's what happens. You talk about it, and your brain thinks you've already accomplished something. But talking isn't doing. Declaring isn't delivering. Posting isn't progress. And while you're explaining your dream to the world, someone else is quietly out there building it. So what should you do? You get quiet. You get focused. You write the plan. You take the first step, and then the second, and the third. Not to impress, but to improve. You let your life become the proof. Let your progress do the talking. Let your discipline become your declaration. You see, every hour you spend building privately adds up. It compounds. And one day it bursts onto the scene. Not with a whisper, but with a legacy. And the beautiful part, you didn't need the spotlight. You didn't need the hype, because you built something real. You see, success built quietly is often the strongest kind. Because it wasn't built on noise. It was built on work, on wisdom, on patience. Let me leave you with this. Don't rush to be known. Rush to be excellent. Don't hurry to announce. Hurry to become. Because when the building is done right, the world will come looking for it. They'll come looking for you. And when they do, you won't need to explain. You'll just stand. Strong, stable, proven, and let the work speak for itself. So remember, don't broadcast. Build, and let what you've built become the broadcast. Let's move on. The discipline of discretion. There's a rare kind of strength I want to talk to you about today, and it's called discretion. Now, that's not a word you hear too often, but it might be the difference between a man who succeeds and a man who almost succeeds. You see, we've been taught how to speak, but we haven't been taught when not to. And that, my friend, is a powerful skill. Discretion is discipline. It's knowing what to say and what to withhold. It's the art of guarding your energy, your vision, and your dignity. Not out of fear, but out of focus. Because here's the truth. Every time you speak, you spend something: time, energy, attention, intention. And if you're not careful, you can spend all your power trying to be understood, when you should be spending it trying to become. Now, I'm not saying you should stay silent forever, but some things, especially the most important things, should be protected, not projected. Your goals, your ideas, your progress, your peace. Don't cast your pearls before people who won't value them. Don't waste your breath trying to convince those who are committed to misunderstanding you. Don't leak your momentum by telling your plans to people who haven't earned your trust. You see, the more you grow, the more you realize privacy is power. Because when you don't feel the need to explain yourself to everyone, you free yourself to do what matters. Let me say it like this. A lion doesn't roar before the hunt. He moves quietly, with purpose, with direction. And when it's time, he strikes. That's discretion. When you're working on something meaningful, a business, a transformation, a comeback, keep it close, hold it sacred, nurture it in silence. Why? Because some dreams are fragile when they're young. They need time to root before they can rise. And if you expose them too early, you invite too much noise, too much doubt, too much opinion. Instead, protect the process. Guard your greatness. Let your actions compound in peace. Now let me tell you something else. Discretion isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It's strategy. It's power under control. It says, I don't need validation. I don't need applause. I don't need permission. It says, I'm too busy building discretion is also about choosing your conversations. Not every room deserves your voice. Not every argument deserves your time. Not every battle deserves your sword. Some people will try to pull you into drama, distraction, and delay. Let them talk. Let them post. Let them judge while you build. Because in the end, it's not what you told people that matters. It's what you showed them. So here's your challenge. Be careful what you share. Be selective with your time. Be mindful of your audience. And remember, the strongest man in the room is often the quietest. He doesn't need to prove anything. He's too busy becoming something. So if you're going to master anything on your journey to success, master this: the discipline of discretion. Protect the plan, preserve your peace, and proceed in purpose. Let's keep going. Action builds character, not promises. Let me begin with a bold statement. You don't become a person of character by making promises. You become a person of character by keeping them. Not once, not when it's easy, not just when it's convenient, but over and over and over again. Especially when it's hard, because here's the truth. Most people miss words reveal your intention, but actions reveal your identity. Character isn't declared. Character is demonstrated. Not on the stage, but in the shadows. Not when eyes are watching, but when they're not. You see, anyone can say, I'm disciplined, but the man who wakes up at 5 a.m. to hit the gym, he is. Anyone can say, I'm committed, but the woman who keeps working when no one's clapping, she is. Because it's not what you say you are that counts. It's what you prove you are. Through action, through repetition, through resolve. Now let's talk about promises. We live in a world full of good intentions. People promise everything. I'm gonna change. I'm gonna start. I swear this time it's different. But here's what I've learned. You don't rise to the level of your promises. You fall to the level of your practice. Promises feel good in the moment. They impress people for a while, but they collapse without commitment. So if you want to build character, not just image, not just hype, but real substance, you've got to move from saying to doing, and not just doing once, but doing it consistently. Because character is built in the daily decisions, in the choice to be honest, in the decision to follow through, in the habit of doing the right thing, even when it's the hard thing. Let me say this loud and clear. Your actions are building your identity. Every day, every choice, every repetition. You are casting a vote for the kind of person you are becoming. So what kind of person are you voting for? Are you voting for the man who quits when it's tough, or the one who stays the course? Are you voting for the woman who makes excuses, or the one who finds solutions? Because listen, you don't get character from quotes. You get it from commitment, from showing up, from doing the work, from choosing integrity when no one's watching. And let me tell you something else. You'll never regret doing the right thing, even if no one notices, because you will notice. Your soul will notice. And every time you act in alignment with your values, you fortify your character. Now I know it's tempting to impress people with words, to make big declarations, to talk a big game, but talk fades. Hype fades. Habits remain. So here's my advice. Be careful what you promise. Be careful what you post. And most of all, be faithful in what you practice. Because at the end of the day, it's not the promise that shapes you. It's the process, the practice, the follow-through. So stop chasing applause. Start chasing alignment and build a life that doesn't need to explain itself. Character is earned in the trenches. Character is built when no one's looking. Character is proven in what you choose to do, especially when you don't feel like doing it. So get up, suit up, show up, not to talk about who you could be, but to become who you said you would be. Because in the end, promises fade, but character, that echoes. Let's continue. Don't argue, advance. Let me give you one of the most freeing principles of success. Don't argue, advance. Now I know it's tempting to explain yourself, to defend your decisions, to debate every doubter and prove every point. But let me tell you something, friend. The energy you spend arguing is energy stolen from your progress. You don't move forward while you're trying to be right. You move forward by doing what's right. You see, success doesn't come to the loudest voice in the room. It comes to the one who keeps walking, while the others are still talking. You don't have to convince the critics. You don't need to explain yourself to everyone. Because the truth is, most of the people who argue with you, they're not listening. They're just waiting for their turn to talk. Let them talk. Let them doubt. Let them misunderstand. Because every moment you spend proving is a moment you're not improving. I learned this lesson early. People would question my goals. Jim, why are you working so hard? Why don't you slow down? You really think you can make something out of that idea? And at first I'd argue, I'd explain, I'd try to change their mind, until one day I realized something powerful. I don't need to win the argument. I need to win the day. So I stopped answering every opinion. I stopped reacting to every jab. And I started advancing. Not with noise, but with results. Because here's the truth. Progress is the most persuasive argument of all. Build it, and they'll believe it. Achieve it, and they'll respect it. Live it, and you won't need to defend it. You see, success ends the conversation. When you have the results, you don't have to talk loud. You just show what you've done. And that settles everything. Let me say this as clearly as I can. Don't argue with people who haven't built anything. Don't waste your wisdom on people committed to misunderstanding you. Don't let small minds detour you from big dreams. Because while you're explaining your vision, somebody else is executing theirs. And they're gonna pass you, not because they're smarter, but because they kept moving while you kept debating. So what do you do when someone mocks your goals? You get quiet, and you build. What do you do when they doubt your plan? You double your discipline. What do you do when they try to pull you into petty debates? You rise above, and you rise forward. You see, you don't prove your value with words. You prove it with work. You prove it with what you've done. So stop arguing with the world. Stop trying to be understood by people who aren't even trying to understand themselves. You weren't called to convince everyone. You were called to advance. And every step you take forward, every decision to stay focused, every moment you stay silent and stay working, that's strength. That's wisdom. That's power. So here's your challenge. When you feel the urge to argue, pause and ask yourself, would I rather be right, or would I rather be effective? Then get back to your craft. Get back to your vision. Get back to your momentum. Because in the end, success doesn't need a speech. It just needs your full attention. Don't argue. Advance. Let's keep moving forward. Say less to others. Say more to yourself. Let me share something powerful with you today. If you want to change your life, change the conversation you're having with yourself. Because the truth is, too many people are too busy talking to the world, trying to explain their dreams, trying to justify their mistakes, trying to prove something to someone. But here's the real tragedy. They're spending all their words outward and almost none inward. They talk at people, but they don't talk with themselves. They try to persuade the world, but they never stop to direct their own soul. Now let me make this simple. Your greatest mentor is already with you. It's the voice inside, the one that's with you in the dark, the one that knows when you're cutting corners, the one that knows what you could have done, but didn't. That voice, that's the one you need to train. That's the one you need to listen to. That's the one you need to speak to. You see, there's power in speaking less to others. Why? Because the more you talk out there, the more you leak your energy. The more you chase approval, the more you look for validation from the wrong places. But when you pull that energy back in, when you say less out loud and more in solitude, something amazing happens. You start to gain control. Control over your focus. Control over your mood. Control over your direction. Let me ask you, what are you saying to yourself every day? Are you criticizing yourself before the world can? Are you letting fear whisper louder than your future? Or are you speaking strength? Are you giving yourself instruction? Are you leading your mind like a disciplined commander? Because make no mistake, your life will follow your inner dialogue, not your public image, not your clever post, not your status updates. Your private words shape your public life. So if you want to build confidence, don't announce it. Start coaching yourself. If you want to stay consistent, don't explain your grind to the world. Remind yourself why it matters. If you want to grow, don't beg for permission. Command your day. Direct your thoughts. Lead yourself before you try to lead anyone else. Here's something to remember. The most successful people have the strongest internal voices, not the loudest external ones. They speak order into their chaos. They speak encouragement into their doubt. They speak truth when no one else is there to say it, and they don't need to post about it. They practice it. So say less to others. Let your results talk. Let your life speak. Let your work shine. But to yourself, say more. Say it clearly. Say it daily. Say it until it becomes who you are. Because at the end of the day, when the room gets quiet, when the world stops clapping, when no one's watching, it's your own voice that determines what happens next. So make it strong. Make it truthful. Make it the kind of voice that pulls you forward. not one that drags you down. Say less to the world. Say more to yourself. And your results will speak for everything else. Let's keep going. Consistency outlasts charisma. Now let me tell you something that will shape the rest of your life. Charisma may open the door, but only consistency keeps you in the room. Yes, it's great to be charming. It's nice to have personality. It helps to make a good impression. But I'll tell you what's better, being dependable. See, the world is full of people who shine for a moment. They light up the room. They talk big. They inspire with their energy. But when the moment passes, when the lights dim, when it's no longer exciting, they vanish. Because charisma can start something, but only consistency finishes it. You don't need to be loud to be legendary. You don't need to impress everyone to improve everything. All you need is to show up every day with purpose. Let me give you a picture. Imagine a man who shows up to the gym once a month and gives it everything he's got. He lifts heavy. He sweats buckets. He posts the picture. He gets the likes. But then, nothing. No return visit. No structure. No progress. Now imagine a different man. He shows up 4 times a week. No cameras. No crowd. Just steady effort. Quiet repetition. 1 year later, which one do you think is stronger? You already know. Because greatness isn't built in the spotlight. It's built in the schedule. It's built in the discipline. It's built in the decision to keep going. Especially when you don't feel like it. Charisma can inspire a room, but consistency builds a legacy. And here's what most people forget. It's not about what you can do once. It's about what you can do again and again and again. You want to build wealth? Invest consistently. You want to be respected? Show up consistently. You want to master your craft? Practice consistently. Consistency is the compound interest of self-respect. And let me tell you, it's not glamorous. It's not always fun. It's not about feeling like it. It's about doing what needs to be done, whether the world is clapping or not. And the truth is, most people won't do it. They'll get bored. They'll get distracted. They'll wait for motivation. But you've got to be different. Because if you can master consistency, you don't need to be the smartest. You don't need to be the loudest. You don't need to be the most talented. You just need to be there when others quit. And when you show up again and again, your reputation changes. Your results change. You change. Because every time you keep your word, every time you stick to the plan, every time you repeat the right habit, you strengthen the foundation you're standing on. Charisma might turn heads, but consistency wins hearts. Charisma might launch your dream, but consistency fulfills it. Charisma might bring a crowd, but consistency builds a kingdom. So here's the challenge. Don't chase the spotlight. Chase the schedule. Don't chase applause. Chase the routine. Because when it's all said and done, you won't be remembered for how flashy you were. You'll be remembered for what you finished. Consistency. That's what builds character. That's what builds trust. That's what builds everything. So stay steady. Stay grounded. Stay faithful. Because charisma may get them to listen, but consistency will give them something worth listening to. Let's continue. Become the person worth talking about. Let me give you a final truth to anchor everything we've talked about. Don't try to be the center of attention. Become the kind of person people can't help but talk about. You see, too many folks chase recognition. They want to be known. They want to be seen. They want to go viral. But here's the question that really matters. Are you becoming the person worth remembering? Because there's a difference. Being noticed is easy. Be loud enough, flashy enough, controversial enough, and the crowd will come. But being respected, being admired, that's not something you can buy or post or pretend. That's something you earn, and you earn it through who you become. See, the world is filled with people who can say all the right things, but when it comes time to live those things, they disappear. Don't be that person. Be the one whose life matches their message. Be the one who delivers, who shows up, who builds something real. Let me ask you, what do you want your name to stand for? When people hear it, do they think discipline? Do they think integrity? Do they think that's someone I can count on? Someone who delivers results. Someone who makes others better just by being around. Because that kind of reputation doesn't come from hype. It comes from habits. It comes from doing the right thing when it's boring. It comes from sticking to your values when it's inconvenient. It comes from walking away from shortcuts and choosing the long road because you know it leads somewhere real. You want to stand out in a world full of noise. Build something timeless. Build skill. Build wisdom. Build self-control. Build trust. And don't just build your brand, build your being. Because when your character is strong, your work is excellent. And your word means something. People notice, people remember, people talk. And not because you ask them to, but because your life demands attention. You become the example. The one they point to when they say, that's how you do it. That's what discipline looks like. That's what consistency creates. Let me tell you, you don't have to chase the spotlight when you're busy becoming the fire. So stop worrying about what people are saying. Start focusing on what you're becoming. Don't try to look important. Become important. Don't beg for respect. Live in a way that commands it. Don't just wish for legacy. Work for it. And I promise you, if you put in the years, if you stay on the path, if you build the habits, one day, people will talk about you. Not for how clever your words were, but for how powerful your life was. And that, my friend, that's the kind of reputation no one can take away. So stop performing. Start becoming. Because when the work is real, when the heart is right, when the values are firm, you won't have to introduce yourself. Your life will speak first, and people will listen. Build a life that doesn't need explaining. Let's bring it all together, my friend. You've heard the words. You've felt the challenge. You've been reminded, again and again, it's not what you say, it's what you do. You want to live a life of impact, a life of influence, a life of dignity and power? Then stop trying to explain yourself. Start building a life that speaks for itself. Because the truth is, the world doesn't need another opinion. It needs an example, and not the loudest one, but the truest one. You don't have to defend your dream when you're living it. You don't have to explain your choices when your results validate them. You don't have to justify your habits when your life reflects what they've built. That's freedom. When your routine becomes your reputation, when your values become visible, when your discipline turns into destiny, you no longer need to convince. You simply become. Now don't misunderstand me. There will always be people who doubt, people who misunderstand, people who don't see the process, only the product. But that's not your concern. Your job is to build, brick by brick, day by day, quietly, faithfully, relentlessly. And here's the beautiful part. When you build something real, when you do the work, when you live with integrity, your life becomes undeniable. You won't need a press release. You won't need to shout. You won't need to chase validation. Because what you've done, what you've become, will say more than your words ever could. So from here on out, let your discipline speak. Let your results speak. Let your peace speak. Let your impact speak. And when they ask, why aren't you saying more? You just smile and say, because I'm too busy becoming more. So go, work your plan, guard your time, honor your word, finish your tasks, keep your standards. And above all, build a life so rooted in truth, so rich in discipline, so fruitful in results, that it simply doesn't need explaining. That's the goal. That's the mission. That's the legacy. Speak less, do more, and become everything you were meant to be.